When you sin, it affects every other Catholic. That's why you have to go to confession. Of course, you could go and ask God for forgiveness, and God would probably forgive you. The problem is that when you sin, you're not only hurting God, you're not only hurting yourself, but you're hurting the entire Catholic Church. And so confession is literally this time where you can come back into reconciliation with the Church. Hello, welcome back to the Daily Mass Review. So this week we're going to have 3 videos. So there's going to be one on Tuesday about mission, and Thursday will be our birth story video. So I hope you're very excited for that. Anyway, so today the Mass was about carrying your cross, right? I think that's a pretty clear theme that was in the Mass readings today, about carrying your cross. And carrying your cross is kind of a stereotypical term in Catholicism for suffering, for what you're supposed to do in life, and it's very easy to say, you know, you have to carry your cross, and not really think about what that means. And the only real way to think about what that means is to think about what that meant for Jesus. Jesus had to carry his cross because no one else could. That's the first requirement. Nobody else could have done what Jesus did. There are plenty of examples in the Bible where humans tried to do what Jesus did, right? Noah was the most holy person in the entire world in that story, and his family is the most righteous family. And literally 2 seconds after everyone else is wiped out, and literally only Noah is left and his family, he sins, and there's sin in his family. And that is kind of to hit home this point that nobody could save us except for Jesus. So that's very important to recognize, that crosses are very specific to the person who's carrying them. Jesus didn't have a different cross. Jesus didn't have this burden of saving the world or running for president or, making the vaccine for coronavirus or those kinds of things. Jesus didn't have those crosses. He only had the cross, and I say only with perspective that it's obviously the greatest thing that's ever happened, but to save us from our sins, to save us from death. And that's a pretty big duty and a pretty big cross. And of course, nobody else has that cross, which is something that's really easy to forget, because we get into this, and I think I see this especially in youth ministry, we get into this kind of mindset that, like, we are responsible for saving people. We need to go out of our way. We have to work as hard as possible because there are souls on the line that we need to save, because if we don't, then, they'll end up somewhere else. They won't. And that mindset is flawed, because only Jesus can do the saving. It's not your cross to bear to save people. As a youth minister, all you really have to do is focus on bringing them to Jesus so he can save them. You got to bring them to encounters with Jesus. You got to bring them to experiences of what it really is like to have a relationship with God. And we get this kind of mindset that we need to save everyone. That's tough. That's a tough pill to swallow, that you aren't really capable of saving anybody. And so the crosses that you carry are much more subtle, aren't the same like big, like bombastic crosses that you hear about in the Bible, right? Like, I don't think anybody is in danger of being crucified anymore. But the point I want to make is this, and the point that the readings make are this: your cross is sometimes not what you want it to be. Sometimes we romanticize the crosses that we bear as some like big eternal struggle, some big amazing thing, a big feat of perseverance and humility and holiness, and that's not how crosses work. Because crosses are those little things that cause you pain, that you need to carry over your entire life. There's never a point where you get to put your cross down. You don't get to sit down and take a break, because when you do that, the mission that you're supposed to accomplish by carrying your cross gets put off, and then people suffer. Because the Catholic Church is universal, there are consequences to everything that you do. Not just whether or not you sin, but also when you fail to act, there are consequences, because your failure to act then affects every other Catholic. Because you're not building up the Catholic Church. You're not building up the community of faith that you're in. When you become a Catholic, you take on this responsibility that now all of your actions no longer just affect you, they actually have effects on every other Catholic. When you sin, it affects every other Catholic. That's why you have to go to confession. Of course, you could go and ask God for forgiveness, and God would probably forgive you. The problem is that when you sin, you're not only hurting God, you're not only hurting yourself, but you're hurting the entire Catholic Church. And so confession is literally this time where you can come back into reconciliation with the Church. It's called reconciliation, right? You get reconciled with the Church and God. The priest stands in as the representative of Jesus and God the Father in the Trinity, but he also stands as the representative as the Church. So the Church is also forgiving you when he absolves you. Because you do actually need that forgiveness because you're hurting the Church when you sin. And you hurt the Church in this way. And this has a lot to do with the idea of carrying a cross, because your cross, you can't give your cross to someone else. You can't carry someone else's cross, right? You can help them while they carry it. Simon helped Jesus. Even Jesus needed help carrying his cross. Did he actually need help? Maybe not. But the point is to show that you can have people help you carry your cross. But that doesn't mean that you get to put it down and let this other person carry it for you. That's not how it works. You still have to carry it. And your cross is specific to you. Nobody else can do it for you. No one. It's specific. And so in the gospel, when you hear Peter saying, like, no, this isn't going to happen to you. You're not going to die. What do you mean? We'll lay down our lives for you. And he says, get behind me, Satan. No one else can carry my cross. You can't, and you won't. You're going to run away. Right? These are the things that Jesus knows. I have to do it. Don't tell me that I don't, because I know I do. No one else can do it for me. It has to be me. And even Jesus found this very hard. There's the agony in the garden where literally he's asking Jesus, God, the Father, to take the cross away from him. And he eventually accepts the fact that no one else can do this. It has to be him. No one else can carry your cross for you. It has to be you. And that's empowering, but it's also frightening. It's frightening to realize that your cross, when you don't carry it, it hurts other people. It's frightening to realize that no one else can do it. It has to be you. There's this chosenness, and there's this chosenness to mission. There's this chosenness to being a Catholic, where even though we're all part of one Catholic Church, even though we're all part of one body, and you can't do it alone, the other people support and help you, there is a certain part of it that you are responsible for. And if you don't do it, you're going to hurt people. That's your responsibility. And it could be anything, right? It could be fighting porn addiction, right? That's why shirts like this are very important. Porn kills love, because it does. And this is a very important cross that is being carried in our society today by many, many Catholic men and women. This addiction to sexual sin. An addiction that's been there since the beginning of time, since the fall, but is now ever more prevalent because of how easy it is to access ways to become addicted to it. Another example of a cross, right, is work and study and these kinds of things that no longer hold the same romantic ideal that they used to. A lot of our teens and our youth are disenfranchised with school because they no longer see the point. You go to school, you do university, you get a job, right? And then this other person who became a mechanic makes more money than you. Not that I'm saying that they shouldn't. I think the mechanics are very important. I'm just saying the whole adage of that if you want a good life and you want to have a good career and you want to have a good everything, you need to be good in school, no longer necessarily applies, right? A lot of it's about hard work, and hard work is a value that doesn't exist as much in society as it used to. Everyone's looking for the way to do something as quickly or as efficiently as possible. And a lot of things in life aren't like that. And especially carrying a cross isn't like that, because it doesn't just go away. If you've ever had an addiction to porn, it doesn't just go away. It stays forever. You always have this inclination towards this sexual sin, and you have to fight it on a daily basis. And if you don't, you're going to be addicted forever. And that goes with any addiction. It goes with internet addiction. It goes with social media addiction. It goes with all these new dangers that are not new. They're the same as they've always been. It's the temptation not to carry your cross. If you get distracted, if you busy your life with things that are not of God, it's very easy not to carry your cross. It's easy to leave it there and forget about it and not do it. But when you do that, you hurt other people. Imagine if Jesus didn't carry his cross. Imagine. Where would you be?
Thanks for watching. Goodbye.